Okay, so here's a rotations Khan Academy that students have been struggling with. So I hope that this will help you kind of see a little bit about how I think about it, and maybe that'll help you do your own problems as well. So here we go from that triangle ABC to the triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. So you see here that they say that triangle A prime, B prime, C prime is the image of triangle ABC under rotation about point P. About just means around point P, so it's perfectly around it. So what we want to try to do here is first you want to identify like, okay, so P, this is the distance from P to A. And then we end up over here at A prime. So you can see that it is not a straight line. There is a slight angle here. So this angle right here is what we're trying to determine. Now, some students can say like, well, I could just rotate it that way, but what Khan Academy is asking you to do is find the shortest rotation. So if I were to go from A to A prime this way, which is counterclockwise, it would be a greater degree of movement than 180 degrees. So we're not going to do that. Okay, so with Khan Academy, what we want to focus on is give me an angle measurement of a rotation that is less than 180 degrees. So 180 would be like a complete 180, right? So it'd be completely flipped over. But we want to do something that's less than that. So here we're going to say like, okay, I went from A to my A prime here. So how many degrees could that possibly be? All right. So now let's look at all of our answer choices. We see that we have negatives and positives here. So let's look at their hints and see how they describe the positives versus negatives. So first, this is what they did here. They're asking what portion of the circle do we rotate through to reach the image? The image is the A prime, B prime, C prime. So you see their drawing here is kind of like mine. Theirs is just a little bit nicer, you know. But this is the drawing here. And it says, since we rotate clockwise, the angle of rotation is negative. That means point A has an angle of rotation of negative 165 degrees. So this should have been explained in the video. If you have not watched the video, you definitely need to go watch that now, okay? Let me see here if I can get, I'm just gonna have to draw a new one. All right, let me erase this here. So we are looking at A becomes A prime, all right? So if we're moving in this direction, all right, this is clockwise. So going this way, this is clockwise, and going this way is counterclockwise. If you look at a clock, that is like not just on your iPhone, right? That is like an actual clock on the wall of my classroom, for example. You see the hands and the movement. So clockwise, the hands move this way to the right. Counterclockwise would be if the hands were going backwards to the left. So this is where it gets kind of tricky. If we do a clockwise movement, it is a negative rotation. And if it's counterclockwise, it is a positive rotation. So it's kind of counterintuitive to what you would think it would be. But just remember to just draw this down. And we know that if we move clockwise, it is a negative rotation. Counterclockwise is a positive rotation. And I mean, you can do like huge positive rotations and to keep it positive. But for Khan Academy, we need to make sure to identify the difference between the negative rotations and the positive rotations. Okay, so looking at this, our options, let's look at our answer choices here. So we have negative 165, negative 125, positive 125, and positive 165. Well, first of all, let's see if we can figure out, is this a negative or a positive rotation? Well, if my A is right here and A prime is here, then it looks like it is a clockwise rotation, which means if this is clockwise, then this is a negative rotation. So I can cancel out D and C right away. So now I have to see, okay, well, how many degrees did it rotate? Well, if we want to sketch out like what a 180 would look like, 180 would be right about here. 90 would be whatever's perpendicular there. So we want to see, okay, is this right here, there we go, is this more likely here to be a 165-degree angle or a 125-degree angle if we know that this is 90 degrees and this is 180 degrees? If it were to be closer to the 90, then I'd say it's 125 degrees, but in this case, it's closer to the 180. So this one should be a negative 165 degrees. So here it's kind of like a process of elimination, trying to just understand, which direction we're going, how big it seems, and compare it to a 90-degree right angle and a 180-degree straight angle. All right, so pause the video if you're still getting all of this wrapped around your head. This one should be negative 165. And I'm going to go ahead and unleash like the hints every time so that you can actually see their description without having to go through the hints all on your own. All right, so here it says determine the angle of rotation. So quadrilateral A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime is the image of quadrilateral ABCD under a rotation about the origin 0, 0. So let's look at this here. Let's see if it'll let me draw on it that zoomed in. Yeah. Okay, so our point of rotation is 0, 0. This is the point 0, 0. Okay, so it looks like, let's use C and C prime. So C prime is the pink one, and the blue one is just C. Okay, so if we look at C and see the distance away from our point of rotation and look at C prime, well, we went from C to C prime here for this rotation. So we want to see, okay, how far did we rotate, and are we going clockwise or counterclockwise, which would be this way? Well, it looks like our arrow here is pointing up to the left, right? So this one is clockwise, which means it is a negative rotation. It just means that that's the direction in which we're going. So this is negative, this one's positive. Okay, so we know this so far. We know it's a negative rotation, all right? So if we choose one answer, you look here, we can immediately eliminate C and D because those two are both positive. So now we have to look and see like, okay, is this going to be a negative 45 or negative 15? Because you see there A and B, those are our options. So let's go ahead and draw. Let's draw like if this were to be a 180-degree angle, that's what that would look like. And then a 90-degree angle would be going right up here. So this is a 90. So if you look here, you see that this angle, this black angle right here, now I'm going to make it yellow, right? That looks to be approximately half of the 90-degree angle. So this one, I would say, is an angle, it has an angle of rotation of negative 45 degrees. So let's see how they explain that in their hints. So my guess is this is A. That's what I say. So let's see their hints here. So it says, let's examine the rotation of a single point, such as point C. This will tell us the angle of rotation since all points undergo the same transformation. So I just picked point C because it was the closest to the origin, which was the point of rotation. So there's really nothing special about that. I just picked the closest point, so it's easier to draw. So see there, they drew something just like me. I haven't been drawing the circles because I'm horrible at drawing perfect circles, but that is a good way to do it as well. So they drew a whole circle and tried to look at the fraction of the circle to then say how many degrees we rotated. So here it says, since we rotate clockwise, which we did get that part, the angle of rotation is negative. That means point C has an angle of rotation of negative 45 degrees. And that is the same answer that we got here. Okay, we thought it was A. All right, so let's see what's next. Okay, it says here triangle A prime, B prime, C prime is the image of triangle ABC under a rotation about point Q. So I'm going to get out my drawing tools again. So I always want to start off with looking at the original one. This is the original because there's no prime on ABC. So this is the original and this is the new, or also called the image. So image just means it's new. Okay, and the primes mean it's new as well. And then this is the old, or the original. All right. So looking there from A to Q, and then from A to A prime. All right, so again, we could say like, oh yeah, let's go clockwise and go all the way around here, but let's not do that because Khan Academy right now wants us to have things less than 180. And I know that because the answer choices, none of them are greater than 180. So if I were to, oops, so if I were to say, okay, well, let's just do this one. Well, look at this. This right here, that's 180 right there. So I would be over into the 200 degrees. So we cannot do this for this Khan Academy assignment. So this one is going counterclockwise to get to A prime. Hold on, let me draw something a little bit better. I'm going to go like all the way around. There we go. So it's going counterclockwise. So here we have clockwise. Looks like this, like a clock. Counterclockwise is backwards clock. Clockwise is always negative and counterclockwise is positive. Okay, so we know that this is going to be a positive angle of rotation. It's always the ones that are less than 180. So now let's go and see like, okay, well, if this was a 180-degree rotation, it would end up way over here. All right, so this A point would be like somewhere way over here, right? But it's not. So it's less than 180. So let's also look and see what is 90 degrees. So this one would be a 90-degree angle where the point A prime would be somewhere on that line. That's a 90-degree angle. Okay. Oops. So now if we look at our answer choices, we know it's going to be positive, so we know it's not A or B, but look at C and D. 120 and 165. Well, which one do you think is our answer? Is it 120 degrees or 165 degrees? So this one here is a 90-degree rotation, and this one here is a 180-degree rotation. So looking at this, in between this amount here is where 120 and 165 is, the red line. What do you think this red line is at? 165 or 120 degrees? This one should be about 120 degrees. 165 would be over here closer to the 180, okay? So you want to look, you always want to set up your 90 and your 180, and then you can see, oh, okay. And just to clarify, if you're a little bit confused, so a 180 is a straight line. That's what 180 degrees is, okay? And then a 90-degree angle is a right angle like this. So I could sketch a right angle degree, whoops, onto any 180-degree line and be like, yep, that's 90 degrees. So whether it's this side or that side, that's 90 degrees. 90 plus 90 is 180. So you can draw a straight line anywhere in any shape or form and realize that that's 180 degrees and then cut it in half, perpendicular, 90-degree angle, right here and right here. Okay, so that's what I'm using to try to determine the measure of the angle of rotation. So let's see their hints again. Let's see how they described it. So my vote is that it is C, 120 degrees. Okay, so let's see their hint. Their drawing will probably look prettier than mine. So again, it's saying, let's examine the rotation of the point B. Let me see, did I use B? I think I used A. Yeah, I used A, but you definitely could have used B. So let's see how they use B. Okay, you see there? So they went from B, which is down, let me erase all this stuff here. All right, so they went from B, which is right here, right there, and then they went to the B prime. So this one is B prime. You can't really see it. The prime is right there. It's so tiny. But prime just means it's the new image or the new point from the original point. So here, again, yeah, sure, you could say, oh, but I could rotate clockwise. Yeah, you totally can, but it's going to be a huge rotation. So here, they want us to do this rotation going counterclockwise, which is the positive. So here it says, since we rotate counterclockwise, the angle of rotation is positive. That means point B has an angle of rotation of 120 degrees. So you can kind of see, they didn't really draw this completely, but if I were to sketch on theirs, so this green one here, this is what we're trying to find the angle measurement of, right here, right? We could split this thing up into fourths here, okay? And then now you can kind of see, okay, this one here, this line would be 180 degrees. This one here is 90 degrees, all right? So then here, if you were to cut this in half again, half of this would be 45 degrees. So it's not a perfect drawing, but this one, it's either going to be 120 degrees or 165, but 165 would be like way up here. So this 45 degrees is just half of the 90. So 90 plus 45 is 140 or 135 actually. So this one would be 135. So 45 degrees is just right in between the 90 and the 180. So we know that this one is going to be 120 degrees. Okay. Sorry, that got kind of messy, but hopefully you saw what I was trying to say. So this one, yep, is going to be C, 120 degrees. Okay, so now once again, determine the angle of rotation. So I'm just going to pick a point. It says here that under a rotation about the origin. So again, this point here is my point of rotation. Okay, so I'll just go and use point A. So I start here and I end up over here at A prime. So again, I'm going to draw my lines connecting to that point of rotation, and I'm going to draw the smallest angle possible. So this one would not be the smallest angle possible. I am going clockwise to my A prime. So again, clockwise versus counterclockwise. Clockwise is negative, counterclockwise is positive. So since we're doing clockwise, we have a positive rotation. Okay, so now what I like to do is I like to sketch out if this would be 180. So I can either draw it here or I could have drawn it like across here, right? This one would make more sense because I want it to be where I start at, which is at my A. So this is 180. This would be 140 or 45 here. Okay. Or I'm sorry, 90 there. Whew. Hold on. That is a 90. It should be 90. There we go. Okay. So we know we're somewhere right in between 90 and 180. All right. So 90 degrees and 180 degrees. So let's go ahead and take a look here. So our options are negative 165 and negative 135. We know it's not C or D because we do have a negative rotation. So we know it's going to be either A or B. So here I would keep on drawing more. Now I'm going to cut this 90 right here, this 90 degree in half. And if you notice here, it's almost perfectly cut in half at the A prime. So half of 90 is 45. So 90 plus 45 is 135 degrees. 165 degrees would be like way over here. That's where the 165 degrees would be. But that's not the case here. So we have, since our black arrow right here, the black arrow points to that spot, this is a measure of 135 degrees. So our rotation is negative 135 degrees because, oopsie, you probably already caught this. Yeah, I must be like half asleep or something. This is a negative rotation, not a positive. I had written positive there and then I kept talking about it as a negative. This is a negative rotation if it's clockwise. I'm sorry about that, guys. Hopefully that didn't throw you off too much. Pause the video and make sure you understand. It is a negative rotation. Okay, and this one is a negative rotation of 135 degrees because we went from point A to point A prime. Okay, so this is 135 degrees, this angle measurement right here. Okay, so let's see here. If I select B, yep. Okay, so those are 4 problems, and I recommend anytime too is seeing a step-by-step solution after the fact. Even if you get it right, I still recommend reading through the step-by-step solution. It can't hurt, right?